Hello YouTube. Welcome back. This is BalorMage again, and today we're showing you my league start, which I'm not advising anyone else copy. This is the same league start that I did last league, so I do know it works, but it is a very purpose-built league start. This is a lightning arrow Deadeye, and it is disgustingly good at mapping. We map very quick. It is very congruent, I like that word, to magic find and quantity and rarity farming, which is what I plan on doing. It is incredibly well supported by supports. If you have party play going on, all the flat damage you can get from auras and defenses and stuff, it does go very well for party play as well, which is also what I will be doing, though it is able to solo perfectly fine. However, in the background, you'll see the lightning arrow footage. This is from either day 1 or day 2 of the league, last league. I can't remember. There are not very many changes in here from last league. We have like one single change. So again, I do not think that this is a very good league start, quote unquote. This will be able to kill your first 2 watchstones from the 2 Eldritch bosses from the quest versions, and that is about as far as it gets in its own bossing capacity. It does end up with a fairly decent amount of single target damage. We're looking at around about 5 mil single target damage, but it is quite squishy. It is squishy and fast, and its job is to map, not to boss. It will also struggle pretty hard with essences on day 1. Essences might as well be bosses, and we don't want to do them. We want to clear maps, many mobs, as many mobs as we can kill, hundreds of thousands of mobs dead, no bosses dead. That's the point of this build. So, jumping in to the path of building. Right, over here, we have the path of building. Now, you're going to notice that the health is very low. You're going to notice that the health is very low for a finished build. This is intentional. I am aware that the health is very low. Now that is because my path of building is kitted out in all MF gear, and most of it doesn't have life. My Ventus do have 40 life on it, and my amulet does have 70 life. No life on the belt, no life on the boots, no life on the gloves, no life on the helmet, no life on the chest. Cluster jewels don't have life. My searing eye jewels do have life, but there's really very much not very much life in this build. To be fair, if we wanted to pick up a bunch more life, we absolutely could. Dropping the entire cluster wheel there drops us to 3 mil damage. We could come up here, we could get a lot of life, we could get some more life through there. There's a bunch of things we could do to up the life. I'm not going to do that. 3k life is going to be enough for me, but again, purpose built. This is purpose built to map at speed and change into a quantity build. So we did do some leveling trees. Finishing Act 1, how you would look at normal lab. We will be leveling as precise technique, which is really good early. Basically, we take this 100 flat accuracy per green socket in your equipped bow and make sure that your bow has at least 2 green sockets and you're pretty much sorted. But do pay attention if you do decide to do this and you're leveling up. Do pay attention and make sure that your accuracy does stay above your life as we level. We will jump over here and grab Onslaught so we don't need to run it in our links, and Point Blank so we get a bunch of damage while leveling. We also grab Tailwind just to make us go faster. You can get Skills Chain for more clear. That's also fine, but I tend to get that from Cruel Lab and just go Tailwind first because it's better. So we pick up here a little bit of life, bunch more damage. I actually end up taking the 15 all res mastery, which is something a lot of people can do early, but isn't something that would be in most people's endgame path of buildings. It is technically in mine in this path of building, but that'll be up to at the time and how hard Ventus gambles are to get with good resistances on them. I expect with the divine change, they're going to be far more expensive, so I'm probably going to be looking for some resistance off the tree because I am going to be focusing quantity and rarity. If you do not want to focus quantity and rarity, all your resists become a lot easier and you do get a pretty significant amount more life. Being able to replace all of these uniques with, proper uniques, or proper rares rather, quite good. But the way I'm going to be playing it is going to be a Cast on Death portal build. So that's the way it's going to be. We go up to Cruel Lab. This is where, excuse me. This is where Lightning Arrow starts to feel like the best skill in the game. Once you get that +1 chain, if you haven't already swapped to Lightning Arrow, I do tend to level as Lightning Arrow anyway, but you can use a ton of things. Rain of Arrows, Galvanic Arrow, fucking Split Arrow, any bow build that you want, any bow skill that you want that you have access to, they all work pretty well, right up until the point where you get chain. At the point when you get chained, Lightning Arrow becomes the best. That is, you're going to want to swap to Lightning Arrow at that point. It's gross. Then we go Cruel Lab, which fills out a bunch of points down here, gets our Mark Ascendancy, gets us some Frenzy charges, not Ascendancy, our Cull. Frenzy charge generation. This is all just about going quicker. We're getting our phasing. We're getting our movement speed. This is just about going quicker. We still don't really pick up very much life there. Then we get into early maps where we're starting to come up here. We're starting to get a few life nodes and some life on hit and leech to get us some survivability. This is actually, we're just going to change this real quick. This is a brand new wheel. This is the only major change from last league. While we are still not crit, we are probably going to take arcing blows, and we are probably going to take lightning damage with non-critical strikes is lucky. We're going to do that when we get up there right around early mapping. It's going to give us quite a good extra amount of damage in our early mapping tree. And then we're also picking up some resistances on the tree because, again, I'm going to be in full quant gear. You may not need this wheel. If you don't come up here at all. It's fine. Depends on whether or not you plan on wearing MF gear. Again, MF gear, very, very hard on the resistances and the life. So if you're not going to be doing Magic Find, if you're not stacking Quantum Rarity, this build does become a lot stronger defensively and a little bit stronger offensively. And lastly, we do have our crit change over here, which is when we get our Lionized Fall, and then we take this whole crit wheel and this wheel here, and we get some life gain on hit right there from that mastery. We get to drop these. This is our one and only cluster setup. We've got a little bit of leech, a little bit of attack speed damage, a little bit of leech, and just some crit clusters to cap our crit. This will depend on your weapon at the time. You can also use some streamlined repeater clusters for just projectile speed, damage, and attack speed. They will end up being more damage if you get crit capped. This depends on your weapon. So both sets of clusters are pretty cheap. Leave that up to you. Depends on gearing at the time. I do also have one inspired learning in this, which is hopefully how I will have it early. Hopefully there are still enough rares that an inspired learning is relevant. If it's not, it just means a regular jewel goes in that slot, and I probably don't take this frenzy charge because the rest of these nodes are all relevant nodes we were going to take anyway. So really it's only the frenzy charge extra that we put in here to fit in an inspired learning. So if inspired learning ends up trash, a regular jewel goes in there, or you just don't take the jewel socket if you don't have a good jewel. And we just don't take the frenzy charge because we don't need it. And lastly, I do have, if inspired learnings end up working really well, I do have a tree that gives up the cluster and goes for 2 inspired learning spots, but this is mid-90s by then, and it does get us an inspired learning there and an inspired learning down here. I have a strong suspicion that this league inspired learnings are just not going to be good enough to wear, so I suspect we're not going to use this tree at all. I'm leaving it in just in case by some miracle inspired learnings are fantastic and there are enough rares around and I decide I want to go double inspired because I can't afford a headhunter yet for some reason. I'll leave this tree here so that I can do it, so that I've got a copy of it and I know what I'm doing, but I suspect this will just be the final version of the bows. For my personal plans, I don't expect to get any higher than this or even to this level as still a bow skill. I suspect I will end up playing the same Kinetic Blast MF build that I played last league, except with a regular quant chest on instead of the chest of Tom Isley, just because I really enjoyed it. The wand magic find stuff was really, really good, but wand league starting is even harder than bow league starting. So we will not be league starting as that. We will be changing into that when we get an appropriate level wand and, you know, other gear that we need. So otherwise, this is my current build. Again, to reiterate, because this is super important. If you do not already know what you're doing and know what you're getting into, please do not copy this build. Do not come to me and be like, I league started this lightning arrow Deadeye and I'm having a terrible time and it's all your fault. I am not suggesting you play this. This is an incredibly squishy build made for speed mapping to change into a quant build. That's its purpose. It does not kill bosses. It is not new player friendly. All right. This is my league start. I'm sharing it because too many people ask if I don't. There was already an explosive arrow hit build guide that just came out. That one's fantastic if you're after a bow skill to play as somebody less experienced or that requires far less money. There will also be a Death Wish build coming out probably tomorrow. That'll be incredibly good if you want to map at a pretty reasonable speed and also boss really well and have near infinite scaling and a ton of damage. That's a fantastic build as well. You'll love that one. This is purpose built. This build right here is purpose built for speed mapping only. That's its only job. It will not do a good job anywhere else. All right, that is everything. I'll leave the path of building in the description, and I will see everybody next time.